Happy Hour, hosted by Dentists in the Know. This is the webcast where dentistry meets real talk, real news, and just the right amount of sarcasm. We're pulling back the curtain on the industry. We're talking to the experts, the educators, the innovators, and the everyday clinicians who are out there doing the work. There is no fluff, there's no filter, and there's definitely no sales pitches disguised as education. If it's happening in dentistry, from clinical insights to regulatory curveballs, or maybe it's the latest scandal at the ADA, we're probably already talking about it. And yes, we are bringing the goods. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned doc, anyone in the dental industry for that matter. Maybe you're a curious consumer, or maybe you're just here for the banter. We welcome you all to the show, because around here we are not just in the loop, we are in the know. Hey, everyone. Dr. Jeff Horowitz with you today, accompanied by two of my best friends in the world, two amazing clinicians, business owners, and educators, Dr. Jennifer Bell and Dr. Chad Duplantis. Together, the three of us created this humble little platform to make the dental world a little smaller, but a whole lot more fun. And today, you guys get a special treat. Yes, it is the three of us. DINKs Unfiltered, conversations and curious chats with Jeff, Jennifer, and Chad. And I'm going to start the talk today by saying, first of all, I'm going to pan down here. Let me have my, I'm going to have my cameraman just pan down. Okay, that's good. Hey, now you on number 2. Okay.
Yep, back up.
There it was. So great full circle moment in life happened for me on Monday night. So in 1981, the Canadian band Rush played Madison Square Garden for the first time. In attendance at Rush's first time playing at Madison Square Garden were two young high school students by the name of Jeff Horowitz and Mark Ernay. Anyway, about 25 years later, Rush is playing perhaps their last show at Madison Square Garden. And said friend of Jeff Horowitz called him up and said, buddy, we were there for the first, we got to be there for the last. And he said, I got us tickets. We're going to see Rush. It's a Monday night. I'm like, that could be tough, but that's as long as I had to think about it. It was a definite yes. It wasn't easy. My original flight got canceled because of weather that never really amounted to much in New York, but got to enjoy Rush after 50 years of playing together. It was an amazing concert. They did a beautiful tribute to Neil Peart, the drummer who passed away several years back from brain cancer. They brought on a superstar young lady, Annika Niles, who is just phenomenal. And it was just amazing. You know how sometimes people do concerts and you say, well, they're not really relevant anymore, or, maybe they should have hung it up. No. These guys filled Madison Square Garden 3 nights in a row, not an empty seat in the house, people going crazy. Hey, Ringo. People going nuts. And these guys just having the time of their life. So my heart's full. Doesn't matter how crappy my week is this week. It's all good. How about you guys?
3 nights?
Jeff, the coolest part of that story, I mean, Rush is amazing, but the fact that your buddy that you went to it the first time with texted you and said, hey, let's do this, that is freaking amazing. I saw Rush. I went with my brother, who's 9 years older than me. He's actually closer to your age, Jeff. How old are you now?
92.
79, 80, something like that.
But no, my brother and you are the same age. And it was very special for me to go to Rush with my brother. But honestly, it's really special for you to go with a high school friend that you probably don't see all the time. That's cool, man. And the show's fantastic. So good for you, dude.
Yeah, it was great. So what's going on with you, JB?
Okay, I was going to post something. I was trying to come up with a very clever video. This is like, I think the summary of life as a dentist. I didn't have nearly as cool a start to the week, Jeff, so I can't really top seeing Rush on Monday night. But on Tuesday, I saw like my schedule just was like filling. And every single one of them was on the mandibular arch or had some component on the mandibular arch. When I see that lining up, I'm like, how many will I hit today? How many will I miss? Like, you just know
Oh my
something's
God.
going to go awry or,
You
whatever.
know that 100%.
Yeah. Guys, I hit everyone. Like, I should have played the lottery that day because I can't remember the last time that's ever happened where you did 6 blocks and 6 people were numb and you walked out feeling like the king of the world. You're like, I'm like basically the best dentist on ever. And then somehow Wednesday or the very next day always has a way of like kicking you in the ass and humbling you right back to where you belong, going, no, you're not actually that good. And this didn't go so great today. So, but yesterday was good. It was really good.
So
So
here's a request that I have.
Okay.
Honestly, that is one of the hardest things that we do in dentistry.
Agreed.
I'm not going to deny it. I want us to pause this segment right here. Since tonight we've got a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
I want to come back to this.
Okay.
I want to come back to this because the best advice on a mandibular block that I've ever received was from a good friend of ours, Dr. David Rice.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to come back to this because, JB, I cannot tell you, like, if I see a male over 40 coming in for a crown on number 19, number 30, that has not had a root canal on either of those teeth, I'm like, oh my God, shoot me.
Yeah. It's anybody or a redhead. Bless them.
You know what? I've been thinking of that a lot, and I agree with you. I am so excited about this topic. Let's come back to it later.
Are you sure you want to come back, or should we just go with it now? I mean, what the hell? We're in it.
Yeah.
We might not get back to it. And
but we got to get to the news and all that other stuff. Yeah. So do we really
what do you
want
to say, Jeff?
Well, I mean, what I want to say is it's amazing. And again, I'm not doing as much restorative dentistry as either of the two of you are at this point. But I had gotten to this point where if it's 19 to 30 and it is not invasive, it's a mental block. It is not a mandibular block. And I'm getting first molar anesthesia for crowns, for most restorative, unless it's endo, which I'm not doing anymore, or it's surgery, in which case I will give the block. But even if you just do the mental and give a little lingual infiltration for the tissue, I'm almost never giving blocks 19 to 30 anymore. So that just leaves 18 and 31 and God forbid 17 and 32.
You know,
I just don't think people need them anymore.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, Jeff, I get it. And this is a topic that I just love and I nerd out on because does JB, you do more restorative than Jeff does. And I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm not excluding you from this conversation, but does it stress you out when you see some of that on your schedule?
Yeah, especially a whole day of like, it was a whole day of restorative, like heavy composites. It just was one of those days.
Oh my gosh.
Each visit.
Does that stress you out?
Yeah, each visit was top and bottom. So not only was it just a whole day of class 2s, like, a bunch of composites, but then none of them were home runs. None of them were like 2 and 15 occlusals. It was just 2, 31, 32, whatever. Like, and so I knew when I look at a schedule like that, I have some percentage in my mind of whether or not I'll hit the block on the first go.
Yeah.
And then how behind will that make me by the time I get done with the appointment?
When I first started Facebook, when did Facebook start? 2007, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there? It's been a while.
That's actually a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's just throw it out there. Let's say it was 2008. There was a buddy of mine who was in dental school. He was 3 years ahead of me. And it was one of these people that you really, really look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that even in dental school, I was like, this is the best dentist ever. He's such a great dude. He still practices in Waxahachie, Texas, teaches at the dental school. His wife's a dean. Craig Barrington, if you're listening, which I doubt you are, but if you are, you're a stud. And I will never forget his Facebook post one afternoon. And he goes, 5 blocks today. I hit 0. And I was
know
like,
that
dude,
day.
I've had that day. I feel that
Yes.
pain. And there are so many differing opinions on this that we could go on all night. But what I want to say is to our patients, this is to our patients. Please bear with your dentist. I know that the endodontist always gets it. That's fine. I don't want you to have to go to the endodontist. Sorry, Ryan Walsh. We don't always get it. The mandibular blocks, the lower molars, anything on the lower arch is always harder. And it really stresses us out because we don't like hurting you. So
Yes.
that's my thought process. My dog is about to drive me nuts. I'm sorry, Ringo.
You wanna get
lost.
Ask an anesthesiologist what one of the hardest nerve blocks to do is, and they will tell you it's a mandibular nerve block.
Yeah.
And, they get to cheat on a lot of the nerve blocks that they do. They bring in ultrasound, right? And they can deposit directly around the nerve without finding the artery. Like, it's really, really easy for them. They don't shoot as blind as we have to. So
So
it can be a tough
here's
thing.
what I always tell my patients. Okay. And Austin, our producer, will appreciate this because I use him as an example. But both of my kids were theater kids. All right. And when you're a theater kid and you're running production, you're drawing the curtains, you're pulling the curtains down and everything. And I was like, imagine you're in a theater and you're reaching in a certain area, but you're trying to grab a specific pull for that specific curtain, but you have no view of it. And basically, that's what we're doing when we're injecting for a mandibular nerve block. We know exactly where we're going. We have no vision of where we're going. We just know that we're supposed to be in this area between this and this, but not including this and this.
Anywhere below the Ozzy Osbourne posters and
But
to the
above?
right of the pencils. Anything to the right of the Led Zeppelin cups.
Not including the erasers. But
it's a
that's
profit
exactly
thing.
what we're doing. We're actually just reaching behind a blind curtain,
Yeah.
going in an area and hoping we grab the pull. And it's so hard. It's so hard. And everybody's so different. If you talk to an anesthesia pundit, they're going to say, go higher. Have either of y'all ever done a Gal Gates?
Yeah, but maybe
a
3
few
in my
times.
entire career.
Yeah.
It scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie.
Feels like you're
it
giving
scares
an
the shit out of
injection
me.
to the brainstem.
Yeah, exactly. So
You're waiting for it to come out the other side. You're like, wait a minute.
But what David Rice told me.
Hang on. Funny story about that. I'll come back to it. But remind me to tell the story about the brain injection.
Okay. So David Rice was like, hey, go about your normal block technique. And he goes, and at the very end, take a carpule of Septicane. And he goes, and press right with a cotton tip applicator or mirror or whatever, right at the apex that you would assume is the apex of the lower second molar, and inject a carpule of Septicane there. So I've done it. So you're getting mylohyoid, which comes down the lingual. And I will tell you that when I do that, it is pretty profound anesthesia. 90% of the time.
Yeah. I give a very weird block. I do septo with a short blue needle.
Yeah.
And I go like, it almost looks like I'm going in the throat.
Yeah.
So I go very far back, and then I have a slight bend to my needle. And I basically look at the curvature of the mandible. Like I follow the curve of the mandible and I make sure that my syringe is identical to wherever the mandible is, which usually kind of takes you over around the canine. But for some people, it's very sharp and for some it's not. But I just follow the line of the mandible and my syringe is parallel to that. And I will tell you that particular technique, I get almost no aspiration positivity like I used to get when I was doing a traditional IAN.
That'll scare the shit out of you too, right?
Correct. And
Yeah.
I almost never hit the lingual now because
Yeah.
I'm going so much further posterior to the lingual. And when I used to do a traditional IAN, I would hit the lingual, I don't know, 20% of the time. And then you had to deal with paresthesia of the lingual nerve and all that. So I go way posterior of that and kind of come in and cut it off at the pass. Because you can leverage Septicane to know that it's going to sit in that tissue and sort of filter around. And then I usually put the patient at like a 45-degree angle, leveraging a little bit of gravity to sort of help it drop. And then I'll do what you say, Jeff. I typically will drop a quarter of a carpule on the buccal of 18, 19, 30, 31.
I do that too. Yep.
And now that I've started to do that very consistently, I am getting a lot because it's always that mesiobuccal nerve. Like you're prepping along, and then every time you get close to the mesiobuccal cusp, it like zings a little bit, and then you got to go.
Or if you
like,
hit right where a crack is in the tooth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I will say that technique for me, I get fewer epinephrine events. I still get them, but I don't get them as often, and I get fewer lingual trauma. If we're getting paresthesia, it's only on the IAN. And I know everybody says about Septicane. I want to talk about that really quick.
Love that product.
I love it. And the data on Septicane paresthesia over lidocaine paresthesia, the data is like 1 out of 1 million for lidocaine, 2 out of 1 million for septo. Like it's negligible in the world of risk tolerance and the profound anesthesia that you get from septo versus lido. I'm willing to take that risk because 9 times out of 10, it's not an injury of the nerve itself. It's usually just that the anesthetic is sitting a little too long. And if you give it a little time, a little steroid, I use photobiomodulation with a laser. We can usually get that to reverse perfectly fine. So I'm a trailblazer on doing septo with IAN. I've been doing it for almost 12 years, 13
I've
years
helped
now.
defend no less. I just helped defend my 3rd case where they tried to blame the dentist using septo. And every bit of data, they're like, are you familiar with this study? I'm like, that study's 10 years old. The studies that I have are all recent. And like everything that they have that they could hang their hat on to say that there was a higher incidence of paresthesia with Septicane, every one of those studies is more than 10 years old, and every one of those has been disproven at this point.
Right.
So yeah, don't let that freak you out.
It's time to move on.
Yes, let's move on because this could
No,
be
I
a
meant
whole
from
show.
the septo bashing.
Yeah.
It's time to hang up that old study. It's like basically saying baking soda is the worst thing that you could ever put on your teeth. And that study's been negated 1,000 times over, but because it was in the 1970s, it like bought rent in people's brains for far too long. So it's time to go.
It's time to go.
Give the Septicane a 2 thumbs up.
Don't underestimate the mental block, though. If you
I do it.
I do it. I love it. I find that when I'm working on a premolar, I do it, and it works for the molars too. So
massage it in, and
yes.
3 minutes. Honestly, 3 minutes later, most of the time, you are ready to go.
Yeah,
I still give it 5. But I've been amazed at how profound the anesthesia is all the way around. And all I need, if I'm doing a deep crown prep, I might need some lingual infiltration. But that's it. And so it's my surgery. But to your point, JB, like big men, I've done that same technique where I try to go posterior and back in. Someone showed me in my residency a curved 27. Yeah, the 27 doesn't feel as good, but on a large male, a curved 27, and taking that approach, to your point, almost never a positive aspirate.
Yeah.
and pretty good anesthesia. But also, to your point, is I will then come back with a 30 gauge short and go straight in and low to catch the lingual nerve, because
Yep.
very often you can miss the lingual when you do that.
And if they have bone loss, infiltration is amazing.
100%.
That's
100%.
But funny story. So a guest that's been on our show, who was my childhood best friend, he and I were playing golf one day, and we were playing golf at this course called Pecan Valley. And about 16 holes in, he tells me that he's allergic to pecans. Well, there would be a reason that the course is called Pecan Valley.
I'm thinking there's a lot of them around.
Is surrounded by pecan trees.
Yeah.
So as we're leaving, he's really flush. He's not looking so good. So we end up going to University Hospital at San Antonio. And we end up seeing some residents. And it's me, and I'm going to go ahead and say his name because I love the guy dearly, and he'd laugh at this anyways, but it's me and Gary. And the resident comes in and says, he's having an allergic reaction. What do I do? And the guy says 5 milligrams sub-Q of epi. Well, the resident takes it as 5 milligrams IV of epi.
Oh, geez.
And decides to inject it right into his vein.
Oh my gosh. He's lucky he didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And I have never seen a 21-year-old male sit up in the hospital bed with his arms out like this, like singing, oh! I mean, dude, it was the craziest thing we've ever seen. It lasted for about 30 seconds. He was $1 million after all that stopped, but he said he felt like he was on the treadmill. His heart was going, I need a nothing. And he felt like he had been electrocuted. It was freaking crazy.
Well, he kind of had been. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
I'm
Gary,
sure that guy's a great doctor today.
You need to come back and tell that story one day, because it was an amazing story. And by the way, we never played Pecan Valley again.
I think that was a good idea.
Is it Pecan Valley or Pecan Valley?
Depends on where you live.
Depends on where you live, brother. It's Pecan Valley here.
Beaufort and Buford, Mm-hmm.
Gotta ask that.
Tomato.
Hey, before you do the news, I do have to tell this one story. We actually had someone in my dental school class that took a 27 long on in the pedo clinic, and actually shot the wall full of anesthetic because
it came through the kid.
It didn't go in the brain, but it went all the way through the kid.
Stop it.
Shot the wall up with anesthetic.
Wasn't dental school a wild time? I think we can do a whole episode on funny shit that happened.
What the hell are you taking a 27 long on a kid for?
No. Did they end up with an ear piercing at the end? Like, oh my God. Okay, I'll do the news, and then we really do have some fun segments for tonight. So
yeah.
All right, my friends, a couple really exciting things in the dental news world for this week. So I'm really excited because you guys are eating it up right now. We've had such great banter and discussion on insurance woes. And then last week's amalgam discussion is getting a little heated online as well. And everybody has their camp, so I get it. But let's talk about a couple things that are happening. I can feel that we're coming out of the summer and that things are starting to heat back up, a lot of activity. Pennsylvania, looking at you. And I love what's happening in Pennsylvania right now. We're going to talk about House Bill 2722. It was introduced at the end of July. It's basically requiring that any statement a dental insurer makes about a benefit verbally, electronically, or in writing would be binding for claim adjudication and patient benefit determination. So the only exception to that would be like fraud or misrepresentation or something really outlandish, or they lose eligibility due to an employment situation or something like that. But if you call an insurance company and they tell you, yes, something is covered, or they give you a predetermination of benefit or anything like that, that would indicate that the service would be paid, this bill would hold the insurance company accountable to that information, which I love because this is just a real hot spot for me. I can call and talk to 4 different people and get 4 different answers from the same dental insurance company, depending on who answers the call. And more importantly, if the insurer fails to comply with that information and fails to pay, I can bill the insurance company for my full fee and it won't go on to the patient. I love what's happening in Pennsylvania. Other states take notice. I think this could be an interesting one to watch. Another big activity that happened just this week was let's go back a couple of weeks. Colorado, actually a couple months, went into effect June 30th. Colorado passed a bill, huge bill, had a ton of dental reform information in there. They kind of like North Carolina when we do a dental modification, we open up the Dental Practice Act and we go through all of the different nuances within it. Colorado did the same thing, opened up the Practice Act and said, what do we need to deal with while we're inside this particular legislation? We're going to knock off all the things and then close it back up and put it back in to legislation. In this particular bill, they passed that the dental board ultimately determined that dental service organizations could no longer own practices in Colorado. And in fact, dentists that were working for practices that were not owned legally by a dentist would also be held for disciplinary action as well. Well, what do you think the Association of Dental Support Organizations did? They jumped right in and filed legal challenge against the Colorado Dental Board. Now, this is going to be a really interesting one to watch because, as you know, this is a heated debate in many states on what it looks like for dental service organizations to own practices and to operate. In fact, my own state has really changed the language recently as well, more in favor of DSO. So we're going to watch this very closely to kind of see what happens and what we can interpret from that. Because if the ASDO or ADSO is successful against Colorado and determining that the dental board has no jurisdiction on whether or not dental service organizations can own practices in a state, this could become something that federally will get looked at. So anyway, very interesting time in our world. Hey, another interesting discussion. Fluoride has been a very hot topic for a couple of years, especially since Kennedy has been in charge of the CDC and the Human Health Services Organization. And we've been talking about municipal water supplies and fluoride. Well, wouldn't you know that just a little kink in the system got thrown in when we started having this dispute with Iran? Now, actually, our fluoride distribution channels are being compromised, and many municipalities' supply of fluoride is getting shrunk, and they're no longer able to access the amount of fluoride that they want to maintain the certain levels. So Milwaukee in particular just put out a notification to their public team and also to the citizens who are receiving public water that their fluoride levels would be lowering down as they're sort of adjusting to the fact that they're having to switch vendors and supply chains in order to access it. It sounds like a lot of our fluoride is actually sourced and distributed to us from overseas. And as distribution channels are being compromised in the Strait of Hormuz, we're not getting the quantity of fluoride into the US that we were once receiving. So this is very interesting. I don't know if all of these things will coincide together or if ultimately it will cause a decrease in municipal fluoridation and then they just will never go back to original numbers. That's the way these things go sometimes. So we'll just have to watch to see. Last big piece of information I wanted to share with you tonight is that HIPAA compliance is going to be changing, and we need to be watching this very closely. We haven't had a major update in HIPAA compliance in probably over 2 decades. So I know I'm still training from some of the same ADA manuals that we bought many years ago because it really hasn't updated since then. But we're seeing some major changes starting to come together. And I frankly am a little bit concerned about the depth of some of this because a lot of these things are going to be a little bit easier to manage on a large scale in hospitals and other things. But for small practices, some of these are going to be very difficult. First, stronger cybersecurity protections, including mandatory vulnerability scanning, enhanced encryption standards, multi-factor authentication, and a more detailed incident response requirement. So for the first time, we're going to see some major updates. It looks like we're not going to see that until 2027, but you can go ahead and take a look at some of the updates that are being proposed. I'll share a link with the producer so we can put it in the chat, which at least you could start to look at easy things that you could implement that wouldn't require a huge, turnover of your current policies, and also some of the financial implications that I'm sure will happen when more regulation is passed down. One last thing I have to note from the amalgam story from last week. A lot of controversy in the topic, people for and against amalgam, and I totally get it. But the two comments that came out of it that I absolutely have to bring to attention. Number one, will this eventually eliminate our need to have the amalgam separator? We talked about that a little bit last week. But more importantly, if we're going to eliminate amalgam from the deck and we're no longer allowed to place it, I absolutely implore that this come alongside with the reducing a filling to an amalgam as a benefit through insurance company. That has to go away. So for those of you who don't know, if I do a composite filling or a tooth colored filling for a patient, some insurance companies will reduce it to an amalgam benefit or the silver filling, and then reduce compensation, which either means I eat that or the patient has to pay more for a composite, as if it's some type of upgrade, some upgrade filling if you choose to get composite. That is archaic. It's very old and outdated, but still happening today. If we're going to get rid of amalgam, we absolutely have to get rid of the downgrade. That's got to go. They need to be in simpatico with each other. RFK, if you're listening, we'll get rid of amalgam. You get rid of the downgrade. And with that, that's the news.
Hey, JB, I thought Medicare had already done that.
Medicare has, but private insurance companies have not.
Yeah. So I would think, and because very often a lot of the insurance companies will follow, at least on the medical side of things, they typically follow what Medicare does and what Medicaid does, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so I'd be really surprised if they don't, but I couldn't agree more. That
Yeah, but you can make the argument. I mean, Medicaid is paying $50 for a filling anyway. Like,
right.
What difference does it make if they call it an amalgam or composite? They're still not paying even used to a customary fee. So it still gives insurance companies the opportunity to downgrade their compensation structure and go to a different fee schedule. Even though, because the important piece of that, Jeff, is when you and I and Chad sit down and negotiate a fee schedule with an insurance company, what are the codes that we're looking at? It's like the top 20 codes that we bill out every day. And I would say for the majority of dentists out there providing, modern dentistry, we're doing resin fillings. So I'm looking at resin codes. I'm not looking at the amalgam compensation schedule because I don't care. I don't place amalgam. I also don't look at the root canal compensation schedule because I don't do root canal. So it doesn't matter to me. But if there's riders inside that contract that's buried in there that says, oh, you do a two surface composite and we downgrade it to an amalgam filling, now I care about the amalgam compensation because that is what I'm based on for every filling. So that BS has to go away. If we're going to start phasing out a restorative material, the downgrade terminology and riders that are hitting inside these policies have to go away with it.
Totally agree.
And I will die on that hill.
You will die on that hill.
I will die on that hill. Hey, Jeff, I can't hear you.
To say something.
He's muted.
I hate being muted.
I think Austin did that to you.
Nobody mutes Jeff.
No. Okay. I'm really excited about the next segment, Jeff.
Oh, what is it?
So remember last week we did innovators, like the story behind dentistry, because just like last week
cool.
with the composite compule, before I met the people from Centrix, I had no idea that I should really appreciate that technology, that it wasn't some manufacturer who wanted to come up with a new way to distribute. It was a dentist who was working really hard to solve a problem. So I thought it deserved some light. Well, Chad was so inspired by that segment, I think, that he also wanted to shed some light on another behind the story in dentistry.
You want me to go?
I would love for you to go.
We're dying for it.
Dying.
All right. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Tombstone, who's seen it? Jeff, you've never
No.
seen
You've
Tombstone?
never
cannot raise
seen
a hand.
Tombstone?
I've never seen Tombstone. I've never seen Tombstone. I admit it. Never.
Okay.
At
Well,
least you can
if
be
you've
honest.
ever seen the movie, you're all too familiar with Doc Holliday. Have you heard of Doc Holliday, Jeff?
Of course I have.
Oh,
So-
now he's the guy who knows everything about
Doc
it.
now I know
Holliday is the
everything. Now that you're
suave
talking Doc
scoundrel
Holliday.
brought to life by the late, great Val Kilmer. Does I'm Your Huckleberry ring any bells?
Mhm.
Okay. So if you look back at that, that actually means a pallbearer. So I'm Your Huckleberry means I'm going to be a pallbearer at your funeral. But what you may not know is that Doc Holliday, the real Doc Holliday, of course, started out as a dentist. John Henry Holliday actually graduated from the Pennsylvania College of Dentistry, which at the time was the second oldest dental school in the U.S. He was such a good student that he graduated early, and he was unable to practice dentistry for the next 5 months because why? He was 20 years old and you had to be 21.
Mm.
So after he graduated from dental school, he had to wait till he was 21 to actually be a dentist. So within a few years, he joined the practice of Dr. Arthur Ford, no relation to Henry Ford, and fostered the largest dental office in Atlanta, Georgia. And I did not know that. I did not know that Doc Holliday started his dental career in Atlanta, Georgia. However, his seemingly illustrious career would be cut short by a diagnosis of no other than tuberculosis. Despite his desire to continue practicing dentistry, his symptoms continued worsening by the day. So he made the very difficult decision to move towards the American Southwest, which was advised at the time as a temporary solution for TB patients. Doc soon arrived in Texas and he began practicing. Along the road, he befriended a guy by the name of Wyatt Earp, who you all may have heard of as well. And he killed a few folks, and he cemented himself as a legend in the wild, wild West. The years of hard living eventually caught up with him, and in 1887, battling tuberculosis, he checked into a sanitarium in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. By the end of his life, the fearless gunslinger had become a shadow of the man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Wyatt Earp. Tuberculosis had taken a relentless toll, leaving him frail, exhausted, and increasingly isolated. Many of the friendships and adventures that defined his life were now behind him. In the quiet confines of a sanitarium in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Doc spent his final days battling the disease that had followed him for nearly 2 decades. It's said that as he looked down at his bare feet in bed, he chuckled and remarked, "This is funny." Having always expected to die in a hail of gunfire with his boots on, he found it almost poetic that fate had chosen a very different ending. Now, regarding his final resting place, which I have many patients, because if you've ever been to one of my lectures on cementation, I do a little bit of a talk about Doc Holliday. And many of my patients many of my attendees have told me that there's a bit of an enigma surrounding his final resting place. While a marker stands tall in Linwood Cemetery overlooking Glenwood Springs, many folks suspect that he's actually buried in the local potter's field. The Colorado ground was frozen solid in November of 1887, making that hillside climb nearly impossible for a burial. Regardless of where his bones actually lie, the irony remains. The man who made a name for himself as a six-shooter wasn't taken down by lead. It was tuberculosis that finally got the better of this Wild West icon at the young age of 36, leaving us with a legend that still captures our imagination almost 140 years later. But I'm not done. And why am I not done? And it's because of a selfish pleasure. Speaking of legends, I can't let the story end without mentioning the man who introduced so many of us, excluding Jeff Horowitz, to Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer has long been one of my favorite actors of all time, and his portrayal of Doc Holliday in Tombstone, in my opinion, is one of the best ever captured on film. So shame on you, Jeff Horowitz, for never watching it.
Yikes.
Kilmer didn't just play Doc Holliday. He became him. He masterfully captured every facet of the man. The brilliant dentist, the razor-sharp gambler, the fiercely loyal friend, the deadly gunslinger, and the man quietly losing his battle with tuberculosis. Every line, every glance, every scene was unforgettable. And I encourage you to watch this, Jeff, because it is a fantastic movie. More than 3 decades later, people are still talking about his performance. And for many, the image of Doc Holliday will forever be inspired by that of Val Kilmer. Life eventually imitates art in some ways, because after battling throat cancer for several years, Val Kilmer lost much of his voice that became one of his signature gifts. And if you've ever seen Top Gun, you damn sure know who Val Kilmer is. As his health declined, he stepped away from the spotlight and into a much quieter, more isolated life. Yet he never stopped creating. He continued to paint, he continued to write, and he continued to connect with fans, showing the same resilience that made his portrayal of Holliday so compelling. Kilmer passed away in 2025. It was a rough day for me. I'm a huge Val Kilmer fan. Might have a man crush on him. He left behind an extraordinary body of work and a legacy of one of Hollywood's most gifted actors. Maybe that's why his performance still resonates so deeply. He understood courage without bravado, humor in the face of suffering, and then the quiet dignity of a man confronting his own mortality, much like Doc Holliday did. In the end, both Doc Holliday and Val Kilmer faced prolonged illnesses with remarkable grit and grace. Though both are gone, their stories and their legacies continue to inspire generations who follow. So I will just say, God bless Doc Holliday and God bless Val Kilmer. That's the story, folks.
I will go watch Tombstone. Have
It
you
is
ever
a
seen Real Genius,
fan-
though?
That is a fantastic movie, by the way.
That's a great
Yes.
Val Kilmer movie.
That is a great Val Kilmer movie. So is Top Gun. So is Tombstone.
Was he in Point Break?
I don't know.
Was he in Point Break? I'm going to say maybe.
Austin, was he in Point Break?
Yeah, Swayze was in Point Break.
Another chiseled
as
chin.
was Keanu Reeves. And was it Kiefer Sutherland, Austin?
No. It was Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves was in a Point Break.
Yeah, for sure.
It was Gary Busey.
Busey.
Yes. But I will say, it was what was really inspiring for me. Have you ever seen The Doors, Jeff?
Yes.
So 2 things about Val Kilmer that really defined his career for me. 3 things. Tombstone was it. The Doors, he sang all of those songs and he portrayed Jim Morrison so beautifully. It was a fantastic.
He did a great
movie.
job in that movie. Yeah.
But finally, as he was on his deathbed, he didn't die shortly after. He came back for Top Gun Maverick, and he wanted to do it. He had a trach. He wore a scarf. He was so powerful in the first Top Gun, and you could see he was so weak in the second. But Val Kilmer was amazing. Just a great actor, just a wonderful human being. But I always find it really cool about the Doc Holliday story. I mean, we always knew he was a dentist. There are some rumors out there that he invented nitrous oxide or was the first to bring nitrous oxide and local anesthesia to dentistry. Whether they're true or not, that who knows? I mean, he was traveling and doing dentistry, and he was also practicing in Atlanta as well as in Texas. But he got 15 years. I'm going to say he was a great dentist, but what a cool story.
That is a good story.
Hey, while you mentioned nitrous oxide, I have to also mention that there is actually a new law related to nitrous oxide. Of course, everything for me is about the news, right? But it is meant to be a consumer product safety, like basically a ban. Now, what was interesting to me when I read this, can you actually buy nitrous oxide as a consumer or get access to it?
Yes, whippets.
It's for whipped cream dispensers.
I mean, I've heard.
Okay. So like not for recreational use, but you can buy it for.
Well, I mean,
no, you can buy it for recreational use. It's called
people
whippets.
buy it for recreational use,
They
but
come
it's
in
sold.
CO2
it goes into
cartridges.
a whipped cream dispenser. That's where the term whippets came from.
Yeah,
because they're from the big whipped cream canisters. Chefs would whip up a bunch of the cream, put it in this large canister. They would put the little nitrous oxide, little compule about that big, into the dispenser, and that's it. It was the Ready Whip, the original Ready Whip can.
You must be able to actually get it truly recreational because they have put forth a bill actually in the federal government for nitrous oxide, trying to ban it except for culinary and medical uses, but specifically carves out recreational use. So trying to protect it for culinary medical. The only thing I can think of when I see that though is, okay, if let's say it's the same as weed or anything else. If I were to carve out recreational use, which I'm sure has some percentage of revenue drive, right? And I only now allow it for culinary and dental use, all I'm now thinking is, great, now it's more expensive.
So
I love that take.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Somebody was subsidizing it. Now, no.
Yeah.
So when my brother's much older than me. When he was in college, he took snorkeling as a class. God bless him. And I mean, if they offered that in my college, I would have taken it too. And anyhow, he came home and his roommates had brought home a tank of nitrous oxide, and they were utilizing his scuba mask to inhale the nitrous oxide. But Jeff, do you remember the whippets? The little
very well.
Yeah. So consumers can get it. It used to be sold at like and
head
don't
shops.
quote me on this if anybody from the show is watching, but there were little like novelty stores that would sell whippets. Yeah.
Head
shops they were called.
I want to say maybe like I'm not going to say they sold it, but I'm going to say a store like Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah, I was going to say like Spencer's.
Yeah. Something along those lines. And I'm not saying it was Spencer's. I don't know if they sold it or not, but it was stores like that. You go up to the front desk. They had these little containers of nitrous oxide. You puncture them, suck them, and you're good.
It was like a little box with 12 of them. So I heard.
Give or take. Okay, on to our next segment, boys. On to our next segment. Jeff.
Yes.
Do you have something for us?
I do. So, we've been delving into the world of talking with all of our patients out there because so much of what we talk about resonates with the general public. And I think it's important to keep that circle going. I think there needs to be open communication between the patients and the treating physicians and dentists just so everybody knows what's going on
Yeah.
in the world. I mean, there's so much transparency now with social media, and I think this really adds to it. So I thought what we would do is a little segment called Chew on This. You see what I did there?
Mm,
Chew on
Okay.
this.
I love it.
So we've been
Chew on
talking,
this.
chew on this. So we've been, I don't mean it in like a way like you don't say it to your buddy who pissed you off. You go, yeah, chew on this. No, I want you to chew on this. I want you to think about this for a while.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about insurance companies, right? We've already got well, we don't really have a cease and desist, although I think one might be coming. Just because we're exposing things for what they are. We've talked about, the fact that many of these insurance companies have not altered their fee allowances, yet the reimbursement or the compensation for the CEOs has gone into the 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars, and many of the higher ups in these companies keep getting huge increases, and yet for the last 10 years for most dentists they have either kept fee allowances the same, or in some cases have gone down or taken away fees that they had previously agreed to. And so I think the public needs to know that, because we're fighting this battle every single day in practice, having to explain this to our patients when the insurance company writes a letter that says this fee is above the usual and customary. So I thought we'd expose another industry tonight, which I've had kind of an issue with anyway, which is the pharmaceutical industry.
Dun, dun, dun,
Oh, chew on
dun.
this.
Yeah, chew on this, baby. So I've always had a problem with it because instead of pushing real curative medicine, we push quick fix answers, which very often complicate the medical histories of patients that are already on multiple other medications and have other medical problems. And the side effects often cause patients to need to go on other medications. They don't truly treat the underlying cause of the original disease. It's just meant to take away symptoms in a lot of cases. So I've had this thing, and I really can't stand that, you can't watch a network broadcast, NBC, CBS, ABC, it doesn't matter. You watch any of them and watch the world news, and there's no less than 10 pharmaceutical commercials during the news. It's like they're just throwing all this stuff down our throats. And it bothers me that they're able to advertise a lot of these medications, because we know what that advertising costs and we know how that adds to the overall cost of the medication. Some of these medications not even applying to that many patients. I mean, some of these conditions that they talk about, I'm like, I've never even heard of that. And I'm in medicine, right? It doesn't make any sense. But I don't know if you guys are aware of this. And this really bothered me. So, did you both know that the medications Mounjaro and Zepbound is kind of close to my heart because it was actually approved for the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. Not that it treats obstructive sleep apnea, but it helps people lose weight, which can
Right.
reduce the symptoms. Did you realize that both Zepbound and the other terzepatide drug, Mounjaro, did you know those are both Eli Lilly drugs?
No.
I had no idea.
Okay. Ask me, because I went to my son about this, who is, now in his final year of medical school. And if he doesn't know the answer, he knows where to find the answer for me. And I said, Joel, is there any difference between Mounjaro and Zepbound at all? Because they're both manufactured by the same exact pharmaceutical company. And he said there is absolutely zero difference between those two medications. Yet they solicited studies differently for both of these medications. One of them was set up and marketed to be a type 2 diabetes medication, Mounjaro, and the other was designed to be an obesity medication, Zepbound. But they are both advertised separately. They both went through their own R&D separate because of what it cost to get some of these into studies. There are a lot of grants that have to be done in order to make that happen. All of these things make the medication more expensive. And so the fact that you have one company taking one compound, which is not any different, and creating two complete workflows where money has to go out the door, i.e., money has to come back in the door for these separate drugs. And I said, Joel, why would that be? Why? How can this be worth it? And they said because there's two different reimbursement models. One reimbursement model for type 2 diabetes, one reimbursement model for obesity. And I said, so that was set forth by the full circle back to the insurance companies. Imagine if we said, oh, no, we didn't do a composite on number 31. We did a resin. And so one is indicated because you had caries, one is indicated because you had a fracture, but we're going to have two different fee schedules because we did a composite on 30, not a resin on 30. It just, the whole thing stinks to high heaven.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yes.
It's the law of interpretation.
Right? Huh?
The law of interpretation.
Am I right for being so pissed off over this whole thing?
Oh, Jeff, after the show, we'll have a conversation because I have a perfect analogy for you, but I will not share it on this show.
Okay. Well, I want our listeners that are also patients, the general public, I want them to know that we are out there fighting the battles for them as well. Like, we want there to be transparency in fees. We want there to be transparency in what we are charging and what you are having to pay. Like, we would love nothing more than to be able to say, here's what you got, here's what it costs, and transparency all the way. But I don't know. The pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies are making our lives very, very difficult. And there's very little transparency on that end of the equation.
Do you think that everything that's filed as an in-network provider is above water, or is it to justify a fee for a procedure that would be covered by the insurance company?
Say that again?
I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't follow.
Do you think that if you're an in-network provider,
okay,
are you trying to suit the patient or appease the insurance company?
Oh, you mean by using an approved code rather than what you actually did?
I'm not claiming fraudulence on any aspect, but I think as an in-network provider that there's an analogy in dentistry. I think that there's certain codes that you try to abide by because you know that they're going to appease the insurance company. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything fraudulent or negligent, but you're doing something that can be coded in one of two different ways. However, you're going to do it in the way that appeases the insurance company so that the patient gets the coverage.
Right.
Well, a perfect
it's not necessarily in the best interest of the patient or the provider, but it's in the best interest of what that patient is going to get from the insurance company. I'm sorry.
No, a perfect example, I think, is scaling root planing. A patient comes in, and if you can't prove it by a periodontal chart and radiographic proof and all the other things, even though they may have diabetes and hyperinflammatory disease responses and they're bleeding like a stuck pig, and like there's 1,000 different reasons why they need to be scaling root planing. But if you can't prove it on 3 data points in a visualization representation of what's going on, then my conversation with my hygiene staff is, I don't disagree with what you're thinking, But are you ready to go in and tell the patient that they're going to owe in full for 4 quads of SRP? So I don't disagree that you're wrong, but we have to believe it so much now that we have to like stick our feet in the sand and say, this is the line we're not going to cross. You need to now pay 4 quads out of pocket because your insurance company isn't going to agree with me. They're going to deny the diagnosis because it doesn't hit these 3 benchmarks. Oh, and by the way, they're going to make you come back for 2 separate appointments and do this all at different times so that they will break up the payments so that hopefully you won't come back for the second round of treatment. Like I get all the games. But the perfect example of that is the hoops that we jump through and the qualifications that influence our diagnosis when we sit down for patients, knowing that if I go in and diagnosis and I believe it to be true, I have to defend it not only against my own knowledge of the disease process, I now have to defend against the fact that I know the insurance company won't pay. And one last thing I'll say to you, Jeff, I do think of what is a little bit different in dentistry than medicine, and I'll probably get a ton of hate for this, is that I still present all treatment options, whether I think it's covered by insurance or not.
Yep.
I really try to give patients
Why would you
the
get
option.
hate for that?
I'm telling you in medicine, and you can ask, I would love to get Joel's opinion on this. I think they withhold information. I think they withhold procedures
I agree.
because they know it won't be covered by insurance.
I agree.
And then the patients don't get the choice.
I could go case in point with my dad on how he was discharged from the hospital without the best follow-up care because of what Medicare would cover
pay.
or not
Yeah.
cover, not necessarily what was in his best interest for his long-term care.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Totally agree.
And
Yeah,
if you were willing to walk in and say, look, best care possible, open check, do what
Right.
you have to do, but also charge me a reasonable and fair fee. Don't charge me what you're charging the insurance company so you can accept a 50% write-off.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be such a different conversation?
It would be so different. And to your point, we work with one company and we don't take, we're not a network with a lot of insurance companies at all, but we work with one that is constantly downgrading our perio from full quadrants to 1 to 3 teeth because we can't justify more than 5 millimeter pocketing on more than 1 to 3 teeth.
Right.
But I would challenge that, are the bacteria restricted to that area, or all the other freaking teeth that are bleeding, all the other sites that are bleeding like a sieve that don't have attachment loss? How can we get rid of disease on 1 to 3 teeth when we haven't eliminated the bacteria?
Correct.
And the biofilm from all of the other areas? And it's happening. And to your point, we get called out because we're like, well, do we want to go through that with the patient where we go through this whole thing of the insurance company says you're trying to milk them for more work than you need to do? Is it worth that battle? Or do we sometimes even suck up the 1 to 3 teeth and maybe do a little more for the patient?
Of course we do.
So here's a point that I want to make, and this goes to all of our patients. I know you all very, very well. You two are my 2 closest friends in dentistry and 2 of my closest friends in life.
2 of my closest friends in dentistry that I happen to be on an online show with right now.
Yeah, but I just want to say this. JB, I have no idea what your practice does on an annual basis. And Jeff, I have no idea what your practice does on an annual basis. But one thing that I've learned, and I could have told you this before we started this show because we're 3 very like-minded people. This is the stuff that goes on behind the scenes with us. It's not all about how can we screw this patient out of this insurance money. We know your insurance isn't that great. We know it's very different than medical insurance, but these are the conversations that go on several times daily within our practices as to how can we best benefit our patient. Is it a 3/4 crown? Is it a veneer? What's going to best benefit the patient? Who's going to judge that? Is it scaling and root planing, or is it gross scales, or is it this or that? There are conversations that go on to benefit you, the patient. And it's not just us three, it's the majority of our profession because they're pretty good people. When you call a dental practice, I can tell you that if a question comes in about a bill, it doesn't just go to AI or pie in the sky. It comes before the three of us in our practices. Hey, so and so called. They were questioning this charge. The insurance only paid this much, this and that. A lot of times we write it off. We do the best that we can. We're all very good people. And by and large, our profession is. I'm not knocking on any medical provider because they're under a completely different set of rules.
Yeah.
But how many of you can say that you called your medical provider and asked about a bill and they called the medical provider and said, hey, Dr. So-and-so, Chad's on the phone and he wants to know why you charged, $95 extra for the thing on his rear end that you didn't really remove. You removed the wrong thing. And he was wondering why he is responsible for that extra $95. How many times can you say that happened?
Zero.
Honestly, folks,
for me, it's
I
zero.
don't feel I have any connection with any medical provider that I have besides when I'm in the room with them.
Yeah.
And I like all of them or I wouldn't go to them, but it's a completely different mindset in dentistry, a completely different game, if you will. And we're all out there for your best interest. And I'm going to drop my mic on that.
Oh, I love that. Boom.
You were dropping the mic a couple of times. You were pounding the table.
Yeah.
I could feel the passion, Chad.
Man, I'm telling you, we work hard for our patients. Yeah. We work very hard. And when you look at it, we're dealing with...
You mean like whole Fridays doing peer-to-peers?
Yeah. We're dealing with $1,500 to $2,000 a year versus unlimited funds.
Yeah.
We're dealing with 2 exams every year versus an exam Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and it goes under the same. We deal with this, folks. We understand what you're going through, and we feel for you. We're not out to take advantage of you. We feel for you. And I can speak for the three of us wholeheartedly because I know your personalities and I know the way that you run your practices without knowing a damn thing about what you took in today and what you're going to get tomorrow.
I'd like to keep it that way because I'm broke.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
No comment.
Come in and spend your $2,000 that you have per year at my office tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll come. Let me go get insurance real quick.
Yeah. So sorry, that was my soapbox.
I actually love that. I think we probably should wrap on that because I think it's funny you bring that up because
Jeff, your analogy was so perfect. And I don't think you knew you were making an analogy, but it was so perfect.
Yeah.
My feed today on Facebook, I'm sure because I'm a dentist, I do get more dental centric content, but it was like 2 or 3 different influencer posts and other things completely outside of dentistry. So like separate from, they're not dental people, it's not unusual to get dental influencers in my content, but they're just other influencers or other people. And a majority of it was dentistry is a scam. People are ripping you off. They're, blah, 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 blah. And it's disheartening first off. And, the one thing that I will say to Chad, the reason that you say what you say about Jeff and I, is that it dawned on me actually that patients will come in and you'll have conversations. And I know this has happened to both of you as well. You have a conversation with a patient and they're like, no one's ever told me that before. Why didn't I know that? Why is this new information for me? Has that happened to you? Yes.
Yeah, only
right.
17 times a day.
Correct. And my simple response is we're not all the same. Like you can't go, we're not a Walmart, we're not a Starbucks, we're not a McDonald's where when you buy a hamburger, you expect it to be the same. We are individuals. We've pursued different education pathways. We've done different educational deep dives after dental school to become more educated in our fields. Like there are some that have finished dental school and that was the last time they really took an official continuing education course. And then there's some of us that have basically spent our entire life savings on consuming education. So we're not all the same. But then I realized as dentists, we do the exact same stupid shit. So I'm in a CE course and I'm teaching one, and everybody in that particular course was complaining about the fact that their lab can't make an implant crown that could deliver off of a scan successfully. And it was sort of 50-50. And I reached out to my lab technician. I was like, hey, can you shed some light on this? Because you send me one for my scan and it drops in, no problem, done. Now, I will say I used a different lab for a short period of time because they're closer, whatever. And I did not have that same experience. It was actually pretty awful. An hour delivery for an implant crown was really terrible. I said, what's the difference? Because the information I'm sending is the same. So differentiate that for me. And he said, well, there's a lot of expertise in understanding a scan body and all the parts and pieces and how you line things up. Like a lot of labs don't quite have the same count, like all the things. And I thought, how naive have we all been for so long thinking a lab's a lab's a lab. But we don't look at ourselves that way. And then, you get crap work back to you for whatever reason. You're like, I don't understand. I send the work out. Why can't you do the thing that you're supposed to do? We're not all the same. And so for dentists, understanding you have to find good partners to work with. But for patients, you have to find good doctors that you can partner with, that you can text and call when you need them without abusing it, please. But that you can get that resource for them and know that all doctors are not the same. We have not all chosen the same paths. And particularly in dentistry, it's a pretty, I think, a wide berth now of knowledge base and the way that we're engaged in the field. I don't know. Maybe.
All great points.
I think there's just so many great points, and I think this could be a total other
It's
episode.
a whole episode.
yeah.
Shoot. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even gotten on that soapbox, but I was
No,
like,
I love it because we all feel the same way. We wouldn't be in this partnership together if we didn't feel the same way.
yeah. I agree.
I mean, we all do. Guys, this is a tough profession. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't love what we do. And if we didn't care about our patients, because everything that we do is for our patients. Everything that we do is for our patients in our practice.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for the almighty dollar. I mean, yeah, I think we could all say we make a damn good living, but we work our asses off. And we deal with a lot of stuff, but everything that we do is centered around the patient.
All right, Chad, I would love for you to close it out for us tonight with a little lighthearted humor. Can you give me one funny thing that you've heard a patient say?
Yeah, so we're going to start a segment called Funny that patients say. And, so as we close out tonight, I think we had a lot of fun tonight. We learned a lot.
We learned
about Doc Holiday.
There's a lot of content there today.
I was so excited talk about Doc Holiday, but honestly, I was really excited just to hang with you two. I mean, we have a lot of fun together. We obviously have the same passion for our profession. We have the same passion for our patients. But I was laughing yesterday because I walk into the room and a patient got really upset because my assistant was going to place topical for the injection. And we're removing a very large filling, and the patient did not understand, if we're just replacing a filling, why do I need anesthesia?
Okay.
And so, that's the one thing that I'm going to leave you with is, what's one funny thing that patients say? And this is probably the most benign of them all, but it's, why do I have to be numb for this? And maybe it's, so I don't freaking hurt you, because I'm not in the business of hurting people.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll want to be numb for this. So we're going to close on that. That's a little teaser for a segment that's coming up with funny stuff that patients say. And that's for our profession as well as for our patients. It's going to be lighthearted. It's going to be humorous. It's going to be just a lot of fun. So, anyways, everybody have a wonderful evening. I hope you gained something from tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. Have a great week.